Wake Up in Paradise, Chapter 17, Going Home. Tossing restlessly on the unfamiliar bed, Anne tried to loosen her cramped muscles. Her watch said 10:30 a.m., and she did not want to get up, even though her back was beginning to hurt from being in bed too long. There was no place she wanted to go, and the blanket wrapped tightly around her gave her a feeling of comfort. Listlessly, the forlorn young woman gazed at the perimeter of the room that had been her home the past 3 days. It was small and bare of furnishings except for a bed and dresser. However, it was inexpensively compared to the cost of rooms in the better-known motel chains. The air conditioner worked, which was more important than the decor because the intense heat outside was smothering. Indecision and lethargy kept Anne listlessly inside the shabby room once she arrived. Even the palmetto bug, staring aggressively at her from its perch on the opposite wall, was not able to rouse her. Normally, she would have been a shrieking frenzy to do battle for its extermination. If there was any emotion in her, it was sympathy. She felt sorry for the creature. They were in the same situation, alone and trapped in a small room. The repulsive insect reminded Anne of all the interesting insects and bugs she had seen on St. Goulet Island. On the island, this roach would have had a forest to roam in and plenty of food to eat. He would not be clinging to a grimy wall with only leftover sandwich wrappers to dine on. Anne wiped the tears of self-pity from her cheeks. Every thought she had made her cry. She missed the beauty of her island. She longed for the smell of the sweet flower-scented air, to feel the moist sea breeze move in her hair. She missed Paida and Renaud, as well as Maman and Papa Cheval. The exile from the island had not telephoned the family immediately, as she promised that she would. She could not bring herself to make the call, because she was certain to cry throughout the entire conversation and upset them. Later, she promised herself, later when she was more in control of her emotions. It was time to quit depending on their generosity, to learn to stand on her own 2 feet, she vowed. Ryland had made her acutely aware of her callous disregard of their kindness, when she unknowingly put them in legal jeopardy by helping her. It was long overdue time to learn to give respect and to be responsible for her actions. But how? How can I ever get used to not being with Ryland? Anne wailed, her tears beginning to flow again. He had become everything to her. She loved him more than she thought she could possibly bear. Living without him did not seem possible, and the thought of it made her physically sick. "Oh, God in heaven," she cried out loudly, "why did you even let me know him just to lose him? How am I supposed to live without him?" Tears fell into Anne's mouth as she called out to the invisible power she had been told was in control of it all. As if in answer to her agonized prayer, a loud knock sounded on the door. Wiping her eyes on the hem of her t-shirt, Anne rolled from the bed. She pulled the limp garment down around her hips and reluctantly opened the door. Not expecting to see the man who stood on the doorway, Anne stared in shocked amazement. The man whose name had just been on her lips was standing at the threshold. "You came!" she exclaimed in a glad cry. Then, heedless of her crumpled appearance, the happy young woman fell into the man's arms. "Paida called me," Ryland explained, his words muffled in her hair. "She was concerned when you failed to contact her. I came as soon as I discovered where you were." "How?" Anne wondered aloud. "By plane. There's one at our disposal," he answered, and moved her into the room. He shut the door with his heel without releasing his grasp. "No, I don't mean that. How did you know I was praying for you to come?" Anne responded. "Because I was doing the same thing," Ryland answered. "You have no concept of the torture I have been in. I missed you, my love." His rapid words were jumbled and almost incoherent as he kissed Anne, holding her so tightly she could scarcely breathe. "All pointless, darling. Forgive me." "Oh, Ryland," Anne murmured, I love you so much." The two lovers sat together on the rumpled bed, with Anne's limbs curled over Ryland's exquisitely tailored lap, her head on his shoulder, her fine hair fanned like copper strands across the deep charcoal of his suit jacket. He brushed locks away from her face, picking up strands that clung to the wetness of her cheeks, and tucked them behind her ear. "Why did you leave me all alone?" Anne whimpered. "I needed some time. I was hurt, angry. I never—" Ryland broke off and hugged Anne closer for a moment. "I meant only to give you the time to make some kind of contact with your family. I thought you might regain your memories." "I had no right to interfere," he explained. Ryland's hands tightened fiercely around Anne. He held her firmly against his chest, resting his head on hers next to the site of the wound that had been the catalyst that had brought them together. "You were not to leave the island without informing me. It was never my intention that you come here alone," he scolded gently. "I was so frightened when I found your parents were not aware you were in the States. I was prepared to contact every name and number in your dossier. Thank God your Reverend Hawke knew where you were." "He was going to come and talk to me today," Anne began to explain. "Never leave me," Anne muttered, interrupting the explanation with random kisses. Anne clung to him tightly, unwilling to have any space at all between them. "I love you, Sherry Osborne," he murmured against her lips. "I thought you stopped," she whispered in happiness. "How could I stop?" he denied. "Because I lied to you, and because I'm not Anne anymore. You called me Sherry. I don't feel like a Sherry. I want to be your Anne again, Ryland," she whimpered tearfully. "You are, my love, you are," Ryland protested. "I'm not that girl anymore," she insisted. "I'm not." "It is all right," Ryland murmured. "I'm here. Hush the tears." "I don't mean to be a crybaby, I don't. I've been crying since I got here. I hate it here. It's ugly and dirty. I don't want to be here. I want to go home," Anne responded pitifully. Ryland gently laid Anne back against the shabby mattress and searched her face with such loving emotion in his beautiful blue eyes. Her heart almost stopped. "I know, my love. I will take you home," he promised softly, with great tenderness. Then, without any more words or hesitation, Ryland gathered Anne into his arms. He gave her his love without reservation, and Anne knew that for all time this was her future. She was home. Ryland was her home. Epilogue. Happily ever after. "Papa!" The young boy, running as fast as his little 3-year-old legs could carry him across the stone terrace, was holding aloft a wooden object. "Look what Uncle Renaud gave me." The toddler's father bent his tall frame to greet the little boy on his own level. He smiled into round blue eyes that were an echo of his own. He smoothed the blond curls with a tender hand. Then he placed his dark leather satchel on the ground and examined the child's treasure with enthusiasm. He said, "It is exactly like Grandpierre Cheval's boat that he cotched fish. See, it sails. We floated it in the pond." "It floated excellente," the boy said proudly. "I see, Philippe," his father said in admiration. "It is a fine craft indeed." "Do you want to see it float, Papa?" the child begged. Ryland Delacroix rose and dusted the dirt from his trouser knees. He retrieved his briefcase from the ground and took the child's hand. Together, father and son walked toward a white plantation-styled house. "First, I need you to take these very important papers and see that they are safely put on my desk. Can you do that for me, son?" Ryland instructed his son. The little head bobbed up and down. "Good. I will go and greet your mother. Remember, we must never neglect Maman." The little head wagged again, this time from side to side in agreement. "Then we will sail the boat." Off the toddler trotted on his sturdy legs, clutching the large case in front of him with both hands. Sherry Ann Delacroix waited on the wide veranda porch while her husband greeted his son. The man was as handsome to her as he had been the first time she had seen him in the moonlight. A prince dressed for the ball. Anne never tired of looking at Ryland. Often she did just that as he sat reading documents that he invariably carried home at night. Just being near him brought her more joy than she knew she had any right to expect. Her husband leaned over her chair to kiss her, and she captured his face with her hands. That welcoming look in his eyes was all the reassurance she needed to know that he was very happy and that he loved her. The expression of love in his eyes still had the effect of robbing Anne of breath, and she supposed it always would. "How is my favorite wife feeling today?" Ryland greeted Anne. He dropped to his knees beside her and nuzzled her playfully. "Fat and lazy as usual," Anne answered, ruffling his carefully tended hair into disarray. "And I better be your only wife." "How is Philippe's sister doing?" he responded, bending to kiss the rounded top of her stomach. "Reluctant to be born, I'm afraid. You're determined it's a girl, aren't you?" she answered, laughing. "Tant Bril has ordered it," Ryland replied gravely. He ran his hand lightly across his wife's bulging middle in a caressing motion. "What does the doctor say? Was he here?" "Yes, he says everything is fine and any day now," Anne replied. "Ryland, will you be disappointed if it's another son?" "No, of course not," he answered. He seemed surprised at the question. "Though we may soon run out of family names to add to Jean, we will get the distinct pleasure of trying again," he added wickedly. "Ryland," Anne scolded, her face flooding with color, "you are bad." "I can't help it, my love," he grinned. "I love to see you blush." "Well," she grumbled, "I would think you would not love seeing me fat again." Ryland gazed into his eyes as he framed her face with his hands. "You are not fat, my love. You are my beautiful, dancing moon nymph," he whispered. "And you will always be my Prince Charming," she whispered back. They sealed the words with a long kiss until a small hand tugged at Ryland's coat. "Papa, Papa," the child's voice demanded, "are you done kissing Maman?" The end. Well, friends, I hope you enjoyed our modern day Cinderella story, and I hope that you will join me next time when I read another one of my romantic love stories. Thank you again for watching, and shalom.